say, pal? Yo, what's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome to the Stochastic.com NBA Deeper Dive presented by Underdog. Little two-game action today. Sixers, Celtics. Suns, Nuggets. Suns looking to steal a game here. Not looking great for them without Chris Paul. Not to say that he'd been much of an asset to start this series to begin with, but we're going to break it all down. I'm Dave Loughran at Lafayette_D on the Twitters, joined by Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS. What's going on, brother? How you feeling?
Good. I'm excited. We have two games too. I was getting tired of the showdown slates, so nice to have a real NBA slate.
Yeah, the showdowns just aren't that much fun, but this one's interesting for a couple of reasons. Like, what's Phoenix going to do with the rotation, first of all? And then with Philly, I mean, we saw Joel Embiid play last game. I mentioned to Josh this morning. It's like people talking about his body language was bad and everything, but his body language never looks right, even when he's fully healthy.
Right.
So I don't know what to take away from that. Yeah, they mummified the guy to get him on the court. He had 5 blocks. He wasn't particularly aggressive on the offensive end, but defensively, you wouldn't know that he had a partial tear in his MCL or whatever it is. How many minutes does he play? If it's a competitive game, that game was a 30-point game midway through the third. Like, there's a lot of question marks for this slate, even though it's 2 games and it's a playoff series.
Yeah, there's some really interesting potential rotation changes, or just, yeah, I guess changes is the right word, but there's more uncertainty on this slate than you're normally getting on a playoff slate.
Yeah, man. Happy to have you guys with us. As always, hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. Obi-Wan said, did Steve win last slate? I don't know.
I don't know, probably.
Yeah. At this point, I think you just assume yes until notified otherwise. But hey, take a single second, hit that thumbs up. Show us some love around here on the Deeper Dive. Take a second, atone for your sins. Wash yourselves clean of that stink. You'll feel better. And rumor has it, you'll have better results tonight. The DFS world, betting, whatever it may be. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that thumbs up. We forget sometimes. I'm just here to give you that subtle reminder, push in the right direction. Appreciate you guys for that out of the gate. So 2 games today, Boston, Philly, Denver, Phoenix. 214 total for Philly, Boston. 2.5 point spread. Boston, 2.5 point favorites on the road. Denver, Phoenix, 224.5 point total. Denver, 4 point dogs on the road against Phoenix without Chris Paul. Do you think, just question, not really relevant, but do you think if Embiid never dealt with an injury and you went into this game, do you think the Celtics would still be favored by 2.5? Like, I'm just trying to get a gauge on how much impact you think Embiid has on the line right now and how well you think he's going to perform tonight out of the gate.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a tough question. Like, I'm a little surprised that the Celtics are favored on the road. I wouldn't expect the Sixers to be, big favorites at home or anything, but, wouldn't surprise. I guess if I looked at this line and the Sixers had been, 2 point favorites, I wouldn't have been surprised.
Yeah, I'm not surprised they're favorites, but I do wonder, like, if Embiid was just crushing, never got injured, and he's at full strength, would this be like a Sixers -1 or something like that? I guess what I'm saying, I definitely think Embiid's status is baked into the line a little bit, even if it's not a lot.
Agreed.
We can kick this one off, though. What's up, everybody in chat? Glad to have you guys here with us as we head into the weekend. We got 2 game slate tomorrow too, Jordan. Do you know? We do? Okay. Strategy show and a live, is it Deeper Dive live? Is it everything? Just live before lot? Okay, cool. So yeah, we got that. Josh and I'll be back with you on Sunday as well. So we got you covered throughout the weekend. I really want to get into this Phoenix team, but we gotta kick it. Skull said, "Why can't I hear Jordan?" I know, dude. You should, if you're gonna refuse producer cam all this time, you gotta at least have the mic so they can hear the voice of God. In all seriousness, it makes for a better production. As the producer, let me explain to you. It makes for better production if if you answer a question and they can hear you answer the question. So like, then everyone's in on it. You know what I mean? Whoa, did you just pop up?
I did.
You make your once in a year cameo. There he is. All
I
right.
get canceled for that hat.
Oh my God. Oh, dude. What are you wearing? We don't do that. Adam, what's that jersey in the background?
True.
The fuck is this? What'd you guys get me involved in? All right, let's get into it. Was that Redskins jersey over there?
It is. I think it might belong to you.
It used to belong to me.
Yeah.
But I said, I will not. I want nothing to do with this jersey anymore. No, I just know that you're a Redskins or a Commanders fan and that you would appreciate that. All right. Let's talk a little basketball here. Boston Celtics, 2.5-point favorites. Jumping into this out of the gate, looking at the boom bust tool, looking at ownership. Of course, you guys know how to get access to all of that. I'll tell you how to get it super cheap a little bit later in the show. But if you're already there, feel free to follow along. Jordan can screen share some of this stuff too, since we're, so nice about things on this show. So gratuitous. So Boston, Jason Tatum right now, second highest boom score on the slate. It's funny because he's at 31 and Jokic is at 53. So It's like not even close. But among everybody for Boston today, I want to look at it just from the team and then we can zoom out across the rest of the slate. Derek White, 54% owned today, $4,900. I mean, him and Brogdon, yeah, it's sometimes tough to get that one right. Last game, if you had Malcolm Brogdon, you were in a great spot. Not so much with Derek White, but he did still play 30, even though he played deep into that blowout. What are your thoughts on a 54% Derek White, 40% optimal score today?
Yeah, I mean, it just looks like a good value. Clearly, you're expecting the offense to run through Tatum and Brown primarily, but you're just getting enough minutes for Derek White. Like you said, he played 30 minutes last game, would have played more had it not blown out. He subbed out with 5 minutes to go. So you were looking at, around 35 minutes in that one. In game one, he played he played 27 minutes in game one. So it's not like he's guaranteed to play 34, 35, but that is at least potentially on the table. You're probably looking at a range from like 28 to, 34 minutes or so for him. At that price tag, he's just going to look like a pretty good value. There's a lot of guys, though, in this price range. So I'm a little surprised that White is pulling so much ownership. You have 54% coming to White at 4,900. You have only 42 coming into Smart at 5,200. Brogdon getting half of that, 24% at 5,400. So I am a little surprised that the ownership isn't projected to be flatter between those three. I do think it's a situation where in tournaments, maybe I get to a little bit more Smart, a little bit more Brogdon at the expense of White, just because the playing time between those three is going to be somewhat volatile where they can cut into each other's minutes, but clearly a very reasonable price tag on White.
Aggressive Goose said, is Jordan wearing a Cole Beasley jersey? No, if anyone, that would be me. He is, I believe, wearing a Myers Leonard jersey, though, which is odd to me. Not sure why anyone would have much affection for Myers Leonard. Wasn't even a great player. Maybe you can explain that one to us. Yeah, I mean, the whole Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon thing, they're similarly priced. You dove into it a bit, but with a $500 difference there, is there, in your opinion, a significant edge to get to more of like a Malcolm Brogdon type here, or other guys in that same price range at the position?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know if I would say significant edge is the right way to word it, because it's not like I'm looking at this saying, wow, I can't believe nobody's playing, I can't believe only 24% of people are playing Brogdon. That's, way too low or anything. But when you look at optimal percentage, you have Smart basically correctly owned at 42%. You have White with a 41% chance of being optimal, but getting 54% ownership, while Brogdon's getting 30% or 24% ownership with a 30% chance of being optimal. I wouldn't say it's like a massive edge or anything, but I do just think, and it's backed up by the boom bust tool and optimal percentages, that White, Smart, and Brogdon are similar enough that you should probably just be getting like closer to 40% ownership to White and Smart, and maybe Brogdon coming up, to around 30-ish%. So I just think that, there's nothing wrong with playing Derek White. He's a good play. I just think that there's a little bit too much ownership coming into him relative to those other two guys.
Avi, isn't Myers Leonard racist? That was in fact the joke, my friend, because he has a forbidden Cleveland Indians hat on. Yes, that was a joke. He's not wearing a Myers Leonard jersey. I was joking. I'm not sure they've ever produced Myers Leonard jerseys. Yes. No, or no, he's not wearing a Myers Leonard jersey.
Got to get the new Myers Leonard Bucks jersey.
Is he on the Bucks?
Yeah.
Really? How often was he playing that I didn't even know he was on the Bucks?
He wasn't.
Okay. Say what did I miss? Yeah, okay. Damn. Still got a job. All right. I don't even remember what he said. Actually, yes, I do.
Yeah, I'm not repeating it, but
was it the K word?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It was the old K word. Then Jordan's definitely not wearing that. No, that wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, I'll say Jordan just like hates half his family, making a statement against him.
He's got a real vendetta against his dad. Oh God. All right. How about Marcus Smart here? 5,200, 41% owned. I mean, again, all of these guys are pretty popular. Not everybody. Once you get down to a few guys that we'll talk about shortly, they're not. But like Tatum's 32, Smart's 42%. And this guy just recklessly throwing his body all over the court, and then somehow getting fouls when he dives under Joel Embiid, who's already in the air. Explain that one to me. But 27 minutes last game. It was a blowout. 33, 35 minutes the games before that. 35 minutes in game one against Philly. He was knocking them down too. Pretty decent usage for a Marcus Smart game last time out. What do you make of him at 5,200 today?
Correctly owned, I think. I lumped him in that trio with White and Brogdon. Smart's the one that is projected to pretty much be owned where he should be. 43% chance of being optimal on DraftKings, 42% projected ownership compared to the 54 for White, the 24 for Brogdon. We have Smart projected about 2 points higher than White for $300 more. Basically the same as Brogdon for $200 less. So he just looks good here. You assume he's going to be out there mid-30s minutes as long as he avoids foul trouble. And, not the best point per minute guy, but 0.9 DraftKings points per minute, 0.89 FanDuel points per minute for the season. Just a little bit underpriced here.
Robert said he didn't even know what he said, Myers Leonard. Honestly, I believe that. I worked with someone, I won't say his name, you know who he is. But when we were back at an old company, he said something that, like, he said it and then everyone just audibly gasped. And he's like, what? He had no idea that he had said something, offensive. He was young.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
I'll let you. I'm not gonna put him on blast.
Yeah,
It's like,
and I just was like, I assumed it was gonna like hit me what you were talking about. But
when I tell you who it is, you're gonna go, oh, yeah.
I mean, I certainly have some guesses, but
I just sent it to you right now. I'm sure people in chat, I can guess who it is too.
Okay.
Yeah, hardly surprising.
No.
I'm looking at the rest of this team, right? And you have Tatum at 9.7. Let's try and break this down outside of just Boston for a second. You have Jokic, Embiid. You have Durant, who's probably going to play, if it's close, 44 minutes in this game. 9,800 on DraftKings. Tatum's 97. Booker 95. Yeah, I didn't know him really. Booker, and he would know what he's saying, and he would.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
That's the difference. James Harden at 87, but Booker without Chris Paul as well. That's another one. Granted, different positions, a couple at center, a couple small forward, power forward, but like you still, regardless of position, you can't pay up for everybody and you can't get over the field on everybody. Is Tatum one of those guys that you're getting a lot of today, or is he going to end up being someone that maybe you get underweight on because you're getting to so many of these other high-priced options?
Yeah, so I wanted to clarify something too, because I didn't say it specifically, but on FanDuel, the pricing disparity between those guards is a little bit different. You're still getting Derek White at 4,900, but Smart is coming in at 6,200. So I think White looks he looks good again on DraftKings, but looks a little bit better on FanDuel just because you are getting a bigger gap in salary where Brogdon's $1,000 more and Smart's 1,300 more. So I do think it's important to clarify that between sites. As far as Tatum goes, happy to get there. Basically projected to be correctly owned, 32% ownership, 31% chance of being optimal on DraftKings, actually going a little bit under owned on FanDuel, 36% chance of being optimal, 30% ownership. You obviously have to roster 2 small forwards there as well. So that makes him a little bit more valuable. I don't really have a problem with his price tag. The only thing that sort of holds him back is that he is only $1,100 less expensive than Jokic, who projects, far and away the highest on the slate. He's also $500 less than Embiid, depending on what you want to do with Embiid and how much you expect this injury to impact his DFS production, you could certainly make the case that Embiid's a really interesting tournament pivot away from Tatum. But I don't have any issues with his ownership. He right now projects, I believe, to be the second highest scorer. Second highest fantasy scorer on the slate. We have him just ahead of Kevin Durant.
How about Jaylen Brown then today? Because once again, like you get into the situation of, you have Jaylen Brown, pretty good price point. Harden's $400 more expensive. Jamal Murray, $7,900 with only 2 games. Does Jaylen Brown become a priority, or do you kind of deprioritize him? As it stands right now, 20% ownership compared to the rest of the field on a small slate like this. Really not that much. He does have slight positive leverage in our boom bust tool with 25% optimal, but less than 21% ownership going to Jaylen Brown tonight against Philly.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a secondary option in the sense that it's very difficult to call him a priority. He's not he's not super cheap. 8,300 is a very reasonable price tag, but it's not like you're talking about these 5K guys that project as great values. In terms of raw scores, you're going to prefer typically getting up to Tatum, Booker, Durant, Jokic, some of those guys, but it does make him interesting in tournaments because there is volatility in his game. He's a 1.2 DraftKings point per minute guy for the season, but you just see plenty of games for the Celtics where Jaylen Brown takes over instead of Jason Tatum. They, do kind of yo-yo back and forth often enough that Tatum is the one you're always going to assume is the number one option, but on an individual game basis, it ends up being Brown often enough that he does look like he's going a little bit under-owned. And it's a situation where like your lineups aren't. It's not going to be the best projected lineups if you go to Jaylen Brown. You're definitely going to be giving something up in terms of median projection, but the ceiling is still there. The range of outcomes, is still favorable for that price tag.
Who else on Boston should we talk about here before we move to Philly? Because we're going to have a lot to discuss with the Sixers today.
So we didn't mention Horford, but he's projected to go a little bit under-owned as well, likely to give you 28 to 30 minutes at 5,300. Robert Williams, 23% owned. The spot that I think is really interesting right now is Grant Williams at 3,500. Not that you're ever confident in Grant Williams' production because his role isn't really to produce fantasy points, but we'll see it on the Philly side. We have 30% ownership coming in to a $3,400 PJ Tucker right now. Anytime PJ Tucker is getting ownership, that should tell you that using a player in that price range is really, really useful as far as building the rest of your lineup. It's going to let you get up to Durant, Booker, Jokic, whoever you want out of those Tatum, of those pay-up guys. Grant Williams is projected for no ownership right now. He played 15 first-half minutes last game, probably played a little bit more than he would have because of Tatum's foul trouble late in the second quarter, but he played 12 straight minutes from the middle of the first to the middle of the second, that had nothing to do with foul trouble or anything. He is somebody that the Celtics have relied on heavily in this matchup with Embiid in previous games. So if 30% PJ Tucker is necessary on this slate, or 30% of a $3,400 very mediocre to bad fantasy producer is necessary, I want some unowned Grant Williams.
How many minutes can we reasonably project for Grant Williams today? Because I know this matchup, as you mentioned, is a matchup that he has seen minutes in the past.
I mean, I think 24 to 26 is reasonable. I don't know if I would say that's the median, but he was also the first guy off the bench in the second half last game. And the other thing is that the Celtics easily won that game. You don't really expect teams to switch things up after a win. So, I think he's risky, but I think he probably plays like mid-20s.
How much would you be comfortable getting to with a guy like Grant Williams?
It sort of depends where the ownership projection ends up. If he's not getting any ownership, I'm fine just like playing a lot of him. But, if the ownership does come up and you start getting like a 10 to 15% projection, I wouldn't be as in love with getting to him. But yeah, I mean, like playing 20 tournament lineups tonight, I haven't built lineups yet, but if that ownership projection stays as low as it is, I would expect that I'm getting to him a lot.
Yeah, essentially this is all like you see a path to him getting good playing time. And if he's going to be as low on as he is, it's really an ownership play plus you seeing opportunity there that maybe the field isn't seeing.
Right. And if PJ Tucker were projected for 5% ownership, I would say like, all right, you probably just don't need a, shitty, cheap value guy on this slate. But the fact that Tucker has a 33% chance of being optimal tells you that that's a really, really useful price range. And I don't think anybody needs to be told that PJ Tucker is not a safe play by any stretch. The minutes are easier to trust for him, but it's not like he does anything from a fantasy standpoint. So that's the thing that really stands out to me. It's just that PJ Tucker is looking like such a useful play. I would like to take chances on guys in his price range that aren't getting ownership that I do still expect to play pretty significant minutes.
Hannah Banana, what's up, Hannah? Said PJ Tucker's like playing Dylan Brooks. Yeah, maybe in results, but not as far as opportunities. Dylan Brooks will chuck it.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite.
Well, yeah, like Dylan Brooks is good. What I'm saying is, as far as results go, they might both finish with 3 points, but one of them isn't for lack of trying when it comes to Dylan Brooks.
Yeah.
We'll get to
Arca tells us that I would play Ross before Tucker. Ross is also in this conversation when we get to the Phoenix side, for sure.
Yeah, that whole Phoenix side is going to take us a little while to break down, no question. We're going to talk about Tucker and the Sixers team. Before we do, though, you know that someone asked, did Steve Buzzard win last night? I don't know. Probably at this point, it's probably been like $750,000 since MLB season started. Jake Hari just took down 21,000 using the NHL tools. And in honor of doing that, we got the May bundle going. The link's in the description. Jordan can throw it in the chat. He just threw it up on the screen as well. You're getting 3 days of Stochastic plus Platinum, $5. If you do the weekly or the monthly, like select either one of those, getting 3 days for $5 out of the gate. It's $1.66 a day. Boom bust tool, ownership, player projections. I mean, that's for all sports, right? But then you've got for baseball, the top stacks tool, the top hitters tool, the top pitchers tool, ownership for that, projections. The lineup generator is included in that on top of it. Everything for MMA, NASCAR, PGA, NBA, MLB, NHL, F1, like everything. If they got contests out there, we got content, all the tools you need to win those sports. We got the premium Discord as well. So if you're looking to get in on that, the $5 for 3 days, phenomenal deal. When you look at what you'd normally be paying, it's awesome. And it's the May bundle because thanks Steve and Jake for this promo. Throwing them out there. Their faces are up there for a reason. Putting up big numbers left and right here. May bundle, $5 off 3 days. Just select either a week or a month, however you want to play that. Get in. Links in the description and chat. Make sure to join our Discord too. You'll absolutely love that. If you're taking advantage of any of this, jump in the Discord. And as always, you guys know we do these promos because we think you're going to win. And we hope that you stick around. And if you don't like it, feel free to cancel. We get it. Not everyone's going to stick around. But when you start winning, you probably will. All right, let's keep going here. Ken said, when Adam was clean shaven, I thought he looked like Donnie Wahlberg. I don't know, dude. We did a show on Monday, and it doesn't look like any of your facial hair has grown back yet.
Oh, it definitely has.
Really? You still look pretty bare bone there.
Nah, it grew back a decent amount.
Turn to the side for me. Let me get a little bit. Okay, a little bit. I mean, you did go yeah. Philadelphia 76ers, Joel Embiid, James Harden. I guess the initial question here before anything else is when you look at Joel Embiid, you've got Nikola Jokic who's just been slaughtering Phoenix. So we know that he's not that much more expensive. We said it earlier, highest boom score on the entire slate today, going to Nikola Jokic by 20%, which is crazy at almost 11,000. So with Joel Embiid, you see an ownership percentage coming in at 9% today, right? 9% on FanDuel. Embiid is at 15%. Jokic is at 29% there, and Jokic on DraftKings is at what? What's Jokic at right now? I just lost it. He's got to be up there. 48%. Is there any reasonable path or reasonable way, logical way, I should say, that you would want to get over the field on Joel Embiid today? Or is it just not something that makes a lot of sense given everything else around him?
I mean, at 10% ownership, it's got to be tempting. He played 17 minutes in the first half last game. If that game's competitive, I assume he was playing around 34 minutes or so. And it's a 2-game slate where Joel Embiid is 10% owned. There has to be at least some appeal to that. Obviously we know the risks. We know he's hurt. We don't know exactly, I've said it a million times. I think that's the most difficult thing to quantify in DFS is, how exactly do you project an injured player? How much do you knock off of his normal projection? But you're talking about somebody that when healthy, overall this season, has put up 1.6 DraftKings points per minute. This is somebody, and he's cheap. He's 10 too. Jokic does project a lot better, and that's why you're seeing the low ownership on Embiid. Still only an 11 to 12% chance of being optimal as well. So I don't think it's some, like cheat code type play where it's just like, wow, I can't believe people aren't playing Joel Embiid. But on a 2-game slate where it's very difficult to find actual high upside players that just aren't going to be popular, just from a pure ownership standpoint, I think there's at least some reason to have interest.
I mean, on one hand, like I said, as we started the show, on one hand, defensive, if you only saw Joel Embiid defensively, if you didn't know what was going on, right? You just came out of a 2-week coma, right? And of course, while you were in that coma, they had to shave your face, right? It was a head injury and they just cleaned you up. You come out of it, and I'm like, hey, check these highlights out. And you saw those 5 blocks from Joel Embiid. You didn't know anything else. You didn't hear anything else. Did you watch that game? Did you watch any of that game?
No.
Ah, well, that doesn't help. All right. On the defensive end, he was chasing, like chase down blocks, like strong defense, landing on the right leg. You wouldn't really have thought much of it. The overall production didn't. So my point was, like, if I showed you that, you wouldn't be like, man, he looks hobbled, but just the overall production didn't seem super aggressive on the glass, finished with only like 3 rebounds. It's just so hard for me. I guess what I'm saying is to quantify this, right, Adam?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It's so tough because like there's half of me after watching that game that goes, he didn't look that bad. And it was a blowout. So he only played 26 minutes, still had like a fantasy point per minute. And there's the other half going, I can't, like, there's no way this guy's at full strength or even close right now.
I guess the way I'm kind of thinking about it, like I said, I haven't built lineups yet. I wouldn't be surprised if I don't get to Embiid, but he has the potential to make you feel very, very, very dumb at the end of the night when you look back and you're just like, holy shit, Joel Embiid was 10% owned and played like Joel Embiid and, scored a million fantasy points. So I'm not confident I get to him even at the low ownership, but I do think that the ownership is low enough. You can at least start to make a case that it's worth the risk.
Right. Exactly. And that's all it comes down to. I get it. I mean, clearly you're not trying to be super overweight on a guy like Embiid today, though. I don't think you
right. The big problem is that Jokic is only $600 more or something.
Yeah, 700 more. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have him projected like 13 points higher.
That's crazy. Yeah, at 13 points, you're basically just doing this as a leverage play and essentially nothing else.
Right.
DeAnthony Melton. We'll get to PJ Tucker, but DeAnthony Melton, 34%. We have him 41% optimal right now. This is one of these spots where I scratch my head a little bit because I think there are some question marks. I mean, PJ Tucker, we saw Paul Reed getting exclusively getting the backup center minutes last game before the blowout. PJ Tucker, though, first half rotations, you did not get much out of him at all. He played like 11 minutes in the first half, and then he played most of the third quarter as they just started to, fall further and further behind. Do you think DeAnthony Melton's playing time here is volatile enough to where 30+% ownership looks a little bit steep, or are you in line with that?
Yeah, I mean, the ownership scares me here. This is sort of like PJ Tucker, where, clearly Melton's a better fantasy producer than Tucker is. But you're just getting a lot of ownership here because of what it opens up elsewhere in your lineup. You have shooting guard, small forward eligibility, only 4,100 for Melton. So if you're playing him, it makes it really easy to get the plays that you really like. The problem, though, is that he's not particularly likely to do anything you really need. We have him with a 2.3% boom percentage, 44% bust percentage. There is a lot of volatility in this playing time. Like you said, 17 and a half total minutes last game. In the first half, played about 11 to 12 minutes, played 24 minutes in game 1. I think expecting, around 24 minutes is very reasonable. But when you have Embiid, Harden, Maxey, even Harris all healthy, you're not expecting a huge offensive role for DeAnthony Melton either. So this is another spot where I think he's a good value just, based on what you have to, take what you're given. But I think he's just getting a little bit more ownership than he should, given that you do have Grant Williams, I think, playing significant minutes tonight. You do have a shakeup coming to the Suns rotation, according to Monty Williams, that is going to get Terrence Ross and TJ Warren more minutes. if Williams, Ross, Warren aren't going to get any ownership and everybody's going to play DeAnthony Melton or PJ Tucker for value, I just like getting to those other guys a little bit more, even though, they are certainly risky as well. It's not like DeAnthony Melton isn't risky.
What about PJ Tucker?
Same. I mean, the minutes should be there, but that's really all you can, say about him for the season. He's at 0.45 DraftKings points per minute. His job is
so
to
bad. What is he at? I'm just curious. What is he at with Embiid and Harden on the floor? Because they both missed a decent amount of time. Like, I wonder if I'm not sure it gets worse than that.
Yeah, I'll say, I think just standing on the floor, you kind of get 0.45 DraftKings.
Yeah, something. Yeah, you just fall head
I'm
first.
waiting for it to load right now, but it can't really get lower, I don't think.
No, I don't think so either. Damn, 0.47. Go ahead, though. I mean, we know where you're going with this one, but
yeah, he's a body that is likely to play upper 20s minutes, maybe more. Played 21 minutes last game. Obviously didn't play it all in the fourth. In game one, he played 37 minutes, but that was, of course, without Embiid. So, I expect probably around 30, maybe plays a little bit more, maybe plays a little bit less, but somewhere around 30. It's just, yeah, he's 3,400. He's at least going to get minutes. So that's appealing. But, I've said it 100 times, the minutes aren't particularly risky for Tucker like they are for some of these other guys that we're talking about coming off the bench. But, PJ Tucker still sucks from a fantasy standpoint. You're talking about somebody that's projected for 14.7 DraftKings points, getting, 30-something% ownership.
I know, man. It's not good. It's so much ownership.
0.62 boom percentage in the boom bust tool, 55% bust percentage. So like I was saying with Melton, you're not getting ownership to these guys because you're confident in them or because they look good. It's just because they're the cheapest guys that you can make, that you can at least feel relatively good about their playing time. I don't mind pivoting away from guys like that in large field tournaments at all.
All right, James Harden. I mentioned this morning, if they want to win this game, either Boston just has one of those pitiful 3-point shooting games, which happen from time to time, and in essence they beat themselves, or James Harden channels some of what he saw in game one. I mean, I'm not saying anything novel here. Like, this is obvious. They're going to need to be able to knock down shots from long range, or they just stand absolutely no chance. I mean, a team like this, that it's going to operate around an 80% Joel Embiid, isn't going to beat Boston. Harden's going to need to do a lot again today. I'm just curious, like, at this price point right now, how does Harden, for you, like, does Harden become a priority for you? Does he become a guy that you like but don't love? 25%, slight positive leverage in the boom bust tool. But once again, look at the point guard position. Jamal Murray's 7,900. Booker's 9,500. So they're bookending James Harden in that middle range, in that 8,700 range. Like, where is he among those three guys?
I think he's kind of the Sixers version of Jaylen Brown. I understand why he's getting modest ownership at 25%, because from a median standpoint, you're just typically going to try and find the money for Jokic, try and find the money for Tatum, Booker, Durant, these guys that project, in the case of Booker, Durant, Tatum, like 5 points higher than Harden. In the case of Jokic, a lot more than 5 points higher. But like you said, this team, especially with a banged up Embiid, they're going to go as Harden goes. He played horribly last game, but we know the upside that he has, even with Embiid out there. You get increased assist upside for him with Embiid. He still can take over a game offensively as well, as he showed in game one. So I love the ceiling for Harden. It's just that from like an optimal lineup standpoint, he's not going to show up all that often. So that's why you have the modest ownership. But the range of outcomes is still really nice because he has such a high ceiling. It's not somebody where it's just like, oh, well, he can only do so much because, he's the third option offensively or something like that. He's not. You can, in any individual game, you can have James Harden be the entire focal point of this offense.
I think there's still, and to your point, I think there's a path here. I think there's more of a path here to him doing that, with Joel Embiid hobbled than there would be in any other game. Just the other outside of Joel Embiid being out, of course. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, wrap up Philly for me, and then we're going to get into this Denver and Phoenix game, which has a lot of question marks. But Tobias Harris, McDaniels, who the hell knows? Tyrese Maxey is going to have to contend for opportunities behind Joel Embiid and James Harden. A lot of question marks, I think, with all those guys.
Yeah, Maxey and Harris, I think, are both just reasonable secondary plays that help you round out a lineup. It's tougher to expect a lot of offensive production out of them with Embiid back, but he is still banged up. There is, certainly a path to Maxey having a bigger offensive game than usual, or Harris having a bigger offensive game than usual. You are expecting big playing time from them, and they're, affordably priced. So they're just kind of guys to me, secondary plays where they are both projected to go a little bit under owned, nothing too crazy, but not going out of my way to get to them, but certainly happy to use them to round out a lineup.
Hit that thumbs almost at 150. We got 1,200 people watching with us today. Hannah, I saw you earlier. You love those underdog drafts. I could see why. Neil and I do one every Wednesday, and it's an insane amount of fun. Right now, Underdog Adam, $15 million best ball contest. Did you see that?
Yeah, I already started drafting.
You already started drafting in it?
Yeah.
How are you? I asked this question to Neil the other day. And by the way, if you're looking to sign up on Underdog, they have, especially in non-legal betting states, they have the pick'em. I can't play the pick'em. Everyone in non-legal betting states plays the pick'em over there, where you can 20x your entries. You're basically building parlays, simply put. You're basically building parlays. Jordan, we do it. You produce it every single Wednesday with Neil. We use his account. It's awesome. And, you're building parlays with player props. Today, I think they have another, what is it? Don't they have a free square over there? Jaylen Brown over 0.5 point. Is that what it is? Yeah. I wanted to hear you say it. I wanted them to hear the voice of God. Yeah. Jaylen Brown over 0.5 point. Well, 0.5 point. You want to take the under, be my guest. Essentially a free square there. So then you're plugging them in. You see other sites do this. Then you're plugging them in, and you're way closer to 20x than you were before. When they give you these free squares, it's a massive, massive advantage. We have the link in the description and in chat. They're doubling your first deposit up to $100. Doubling your first deposit up to $100. You put $100 in, that means you got 200. You put 50, you got 100 now. Even if you only put 10 in, you got 20. They do the daily contest. They're like 6, 7K up top in a lot of these for basketball. They're $5 to enter them. They're awesome. $5 to enter. Even if you put $10 in, you got 20 now. There's 4 daily drafts that you can do. Those are insanely fun. They have the daily drafts every day for every sport. They have the biggest best ball contests on the planet, literally biggest best ball contest on the planet. The best ball 4 is huge, $15 million. It's already underway. Got playoff drafts for basketball, NHL, PGA, all that stuff. It's free money that you're getting. It's one of those sites where it sells itself because they have everything over there, and it just continues to grow. And with fantasy football, it's massive. Link is down there in the description and in chat. If you're trying to get that your first deposit doubled, use the link up to $100, double your deposit. So I wanted to ask you, I know we're talking basketball here, guys. I think this will help everyone because I know most of you are already on Underdog. Do you have any plan of because I'm assuming you'll put 150 in it. Let's assume you do. If you're putting 150 lineups into this, I know you did last year. I know you did on DraftKings too. Are you trying to space your drafts out throughout the summer? Because front loading them or back loading them seems like it could maybe run you into some trouble.
Yeah, I try and spread it out. It's tough because I enjoy drafting, and so I kind of run the issue sometimes of getting.
You do it at the bar, like you're just having a beer at drafting, right?
Yeah. Not so much now. Like at the close to the start of the season when I'm trying hard to get all of my teams in, I do. But now it's more, I'll sit out on the balcony at night and drink a beer and draft.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I enjoy it, so it makes it hard to not front load. But yeah, I try and space it out, because now the idea is that now you're getting values on players that are going to be a lot more expensive in 2 months once we get, training camp news. But you're also obviously going to have guys get hurt between now and the season. You're going to have guys fall out of favor that you drafted. So it kind of just helps, I guess, manage risk to space them out.
So check it out. Link in the description and in chat. Whether it's the Pick'em contest, the daily drafts, the daily essentially DFS drafts, and the Best Ball Mania 4. They have the puppy too, which is like $5 to enter. Massive. What's the prize pool in that? I'm assuming it's big as well. So
sure.
Yeah, all that good stuff. Check it out. And we'll see you over there at Underdog. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff on that for sure. $500,000 prize pool. James Magruder with a super chat. Best 5K or under player on DraftKings and Booker or Durant. Man, Josh and I talked about it a lot this morning with Booker or Durant. Let's actually do this. Let's start with the Phoenix side, Adam, because we can kind of we could do a nice little seamless transition into the Suns here. And I'll answer both of those questions, James. Chris Paul being out has to help Devin Booker just from a ball handling standpoint, like considerably. What are the chances that this is just exclusively a two-man show tonight?
Relatively high.
Okay, yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. We did get so it's been mentioned in chat, but Monty Williams did come out and say that they're going to switch up the rotation, play Terrence Ross and TJ Warren. I don't remember exactly how he worded it, but significant minutes. And I think he said basically just they need more offense, and we're gonna just take what comes with playing Ross and Warren, meaning shit defense. So you're gonna get a different.
Do you think Okogie plays way less as a result?
I think Koji and Craig probably play less. You do clearly have a bunch of minutes available though, with Paul being out too. But I expect it to. You always expect it to be the Durant and Booker show, but even more so when you're down 2 games, you're playing without Chris Paul. You're gonna have the ball in Devin Booker and Kevin Durant's hands more. So they're going to be the ones that get to make the decisions on where it's going. You don't have to rely on Chris Paul to get them the ball. I do expect those two to clearly be heavily involved. I think it's very difficult to say which one you prefer. We have them projected less than a point apart. Kevin Durant about a half a point higher than Devin Booker. He's also $300 more. So, very, very similar plays. Without Paul on the floor this year, 1.32 DraftKings points per minute for Booker. Obviously, though, Durant wasn't there for most of that. Durant's at 1.5 fantasy points per minute, but only 118 minutes for him. So, point being, you do expect increased production here. 27.7% assist percentage for Booker without him on the floor. So, yeah, they both look really, really good.
They really do. And to answer the question, the other one, who's the best, 5K or lower guy?
I think it's White.
What's that?
I think it's White.
Yeah, White. And I'm just going to pull it up in the boom bust tool. Melton, White, Bruce Brown, who we'll get to, Campaign, who we'll get to. All of them have very similar optimal scores today as well. But yeah, I mean, they're all pretty popular on top of that. Like all very popular. Looking at the rest of Phoenix outside of Booker and Durant, you broke that down nicely. I think we can agree both of them are in spots where and they're at home too. Denver's a much worse team, particularly defensively on the road as well. If you look at that throughout the season, without Chris Paul, what do you think this looks like? Do we get a Cameron Payne, Devin Booker starting lineup? What are we looking at? How are you breaking these minutes down?
Yeah, so I mean, we need the starting lineup. My assumption is that Cameron Payne gets the start. He's 4,800. At that price tag, I'm certainly happy to play him. He is getting a ton of ownership, and I don't think there's a guarantee he closes. You could definitely see Devin Booker running point to close this game out. And, Payne is clearly going to take a back seat when he's on the floor to Booker and Durant. So I am somewhat nervous about him. At nearly 50% ownership, we have him with a 35% chance of being optimal. So he is projected to go a bit over-owned, but as long as he starts, he is going to project as a good value, probably playing, mid to upper 20s. We have him at 25 minutes. Wouldn't be surprised if he played a little bit more. Probably also has to do, his playing time will probably also be impacted by, 1, how well he's playing, 2, what the score looks like. But at 4,800, certainly not a free square or anything. It's not like they didn't bump his price already, but certainly offers some value at that price tag, especially assuming he starts.
Yeah. That ownership's pretty high, huh? 47%.
Yeah. He's played 591 minutes also with Booker on the floor without Paul this year. He's still at a fantasy point per minute. Of course, Durant does change that though.
Right. And we have basically no sample of that since he was out when Durant came back.
Right, exactly. Cameron Payne has played 23 total minutes with Booker and Durant on and Paul off. 0.63 DraftKings points per minute with an 11.6% usage rate.
Yeah. Look, is that enough of a sample? No, but would it surprise you if I told you it was 300 minutes in 0.6? No, of course.
Right. Not. Like it definitely moves in the direction that you expected it to move.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like it's 1.9.
Right.
What about Ayton today? He's the second highest owned player on the Suns.
Yeah, and Colin Man's right also. Payne just came back from injury too.
Yeah.
The price tag on Ayton looks good at 6,500. You know the minutes are going to be there. Played 33 minutes last game. The production, is hit or miss because obviously Kevin Durant cuts into his usage. I'm also a little bit concerned about Paul being out for Ayton, just because Paul is such a good passer, such a good playmaker. He can get DeAndre Ayton the ball in very favorable situations to score, whereas now you don't have Paul out there to do that, to set him up. You do probably have Booker and Durant calling their own numbers a little bit more than otherwise would be the case. So at 6,500, I still think he's a good play, but I don't see him like with Booker and Durant. It's very easy to just assume that they're going to do more without Chris Paul. I don't think that's necessarily the case with Ayton.
No, if it was without Durant, absolutely.
Right.
But without Chris Paul, not really. I mean, I view this as, Chris Paul already a pretty low usage rate guy playing along. What's Chris Paul's usage playing alongside Kevin Durant and Devin Booker? It can't be above 19, 20%.
It is 15.2% in 357 minutes.
Yeah, that's
DeAndre Ayton is 18.5% in 352 minutes.
Right. Man. What do you have it with Chris Paul off?
I
can pull it up, but I figured you're already there. What's Devin Booker's assist rate without Chris Paul this year?
It was 27.7%. Okay. I'm about to look now if it loads to see what it is with Durant on and Paul off.
I'd say like 23. It doesn't sound like it's going to be that big of a jump.
So they've only played 80 minutes together, but yeah, 23.5%.
Okay. Yeah. Josh Okogie, this one, 41%. I know how cheap he is. You don't have to enlighten me there. That is scary. You know what his boom score is today? 0.4%. Like, this scares me, especially hearing that this rotation might get a little bit bigger today, specifically with these wing players.
Yeah, I think you can kind of just rewind and listen to everything we just said about the Anthony Melton and PJ Tucker and apply it to Josh Okogie as well. He's getting a lot of ownership because he's only $3,600. Assuming he remains in the starting lineup, you at least know he's getting on the floor. But 26% chance of being optimal, 41% ownership, 0.44 boom percentage, 58% bust percentage. Just like Melton, just like Tucker, he's getting ownership because of what else it gets you in your lineup, not because of anything that really has to do with Josh Okogie. And those are my favorite guys to try and pivot off of when they're popular because, you're taking risks going to other guys, but it's not like you're giving up a sure thing in Josh Okogie. I think his playing time will in part be determined by if he's knocking down open threes that he needs to knock down. Also, from a defensive standpoint, if they're playing from ahead, he's more likely to get some extra minutes than if they're playing from behind, I think. But I expect there to be a lot of volatility between Okogie, Craig, Warren, Ross, in terms of, if you're playing well, you get more minutes. If you're not playing well, you lose minutes. That's nice in DFS in a way, because it makes them all risky, but it also creates a situation where if your guy, whichever one you have, whether it's Okogie, Ross, Warren, Craig, if your guy is playing poorly, he's going to probably not get the minutes that you want, but he was playing poorly anyway, so you weren't getting a good game from him. If he is playing well, he can very easily find more minutes, and that's obviously what you're really looking for in DFS. So I do like attacking spots like that, and typically I'm going to end up getting to the guys that are lower owned. So Okogie's getting a ton of ownership, and again, not a bad play. He's really, really cheap, but I don't mind mixing in some, unowned 3K Terrence Ross or TJ Warren instead.
Metaphorical gun to the head. What do you think the starting lineup is tonight?
Payne, Booker, Durant, Okogie, Ayton.
Okay, so you think Okogie stays in it?
Yeah, that's my guess.
Yeah. So really that would just be swapping Payne for Paul.
Right. But I think that, so like you're opening up, 30 whatever minutes, close to 40 minutes with Paul being out. You're expecting Payne to take on some of that. And then I think you're going to see Ross and Warren soak up some. And then maybe, you see Okogie, Craig lose some minutes as well. Like Damian Lee, for example, played 26 minutes last game. I don't know if does he lose minutes or not, to Ross Warren. we obviously don't know exactly how that rotation is going to go, but there is just a lot of volatility there.
Is it possible that a Warren or a Craig or a Ross or a Lee, is it possible that any of these guys today, and when I say possible, I mean, is it worth exploring that one of these guys could end up in the optimal?
Yeah. I mean,
Warren sometimes will shoot. At least we know that.
Right. And, Monty Williams specifically said the reason for getting him and Ross more minutes is to increase the scoring that the Suns have out there. He made it very clear that this is going to make them worse defensively, and he's aware of that. But, when you talk about all of the ownership and very high optimal percentages coming into guys like Okogie, Tucker, Melton, it tells you how important this price range is, because this is a pretty tough slate. Not that there aren't good mid-range plays, but this is a pretty tough slate to just truly go balanced, because you end up giving up so much of Jokic, Durant, Booker, Tatum, the guys that you really, really want to be getting into your lineups at the top end. So it's telling you, the optimal percentage on those guys are basically telling you that it's very, very likely that you get a cheap guy or two in the optimal lineup, because you have very low projections on these guys and they're still showing up as optimal such a high percentage of the time. It tells you how important that price range is. It's just a matter of which one does it actually end up being. But if one of these guys actually puts up a good fantasy game, not 14, 15 points that they're projected for, it's very, very easy for them to end up in the optimal lineup.
Wrap it up with the Denver Nuggets, man. We'll turn this one over to live before lock right after that. Who do we got on LBL tonight? We got Greg and Neil. Yeah. Okay. We got Greg and Neil coming up after this. Don't go anywhere. Also, stick around. The Hall of Fame segment's coming up. Had some huge winners this week. Huge. Jordan and I will be back doing it again next week. And if you're not rocking the stochastic avatar on FanDuel, DraftKings, wherever it is you play, don't come crying to us when you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more and asking for that free subscription, that free $120 monthly membership. Don't say I forgot. Don't say I didn't know the rules. You knew the rules. I told you the rules. All you got to do is go to stochastic.com/avatar, or just click the link in the description. Take that avatar, right? Take that, download it, use it wherever it is you play. And if you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, tweet those. And it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's the nickel or the dime. It doesn't matter. You tweet those wins to us. It's stochastic HOF. Maybe a kind message attached to it. That's always appreciated. You're getting up in the Hall of Fame. We're inducting you. Proud moment for you and the family. You can gather them around the screen in between Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock and say, honey, look what I did. And she'll go, shut the fuck up. No, she's going to go, that's great, dear. That's great. Really, we know they don't care. But anyway, do that and make sure you got the avatar. You know what I would say, Jordan? I would say be like our pal, Mr. 586, Mr. Woods, who played 35 cents, turned it into $620 or whatever it was, and got a free month, $120 value on 35 cents. The piggy bank, which was what, 10 cents to enter, and the fadeaway, which was 25 cents to enter. Those two single entries got him a free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum and right up here. So, yes, stochastic.com/avatar. Tweet us your wins. Get that free month. Get inducted. All right. Adam. Sorry. I always got to say your name. Get you back here. All right. Denver Nuggets. Nikola Jokic. We've mentioned it several times, but is he the premier pay-up spot by a lot today, or is he just the premier pay-up spot?
Yeah, absolutely. From a projection standpoint, it's not even close. We mentioned it earlier, but you have like a 13-point gap between Jokic and everybody else on the slate. Right now, we have Jokic projected for 62.5 DraftKings points. We have Tatum at 51.6, 51 for Durant, 50.5 for Booker. Just a massive, massive gap there, and not that big of a gap in salary. Jokic is the most expensive at 10.9, but he's only 1,200 more than Tatum. He's 1,100 more than Durant, 1,400 more than Booker. That's not nothing, but you're not gonna have to sacrifice that much to get to him. Just looks absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I don't think we really need to say much more about Nikola Jokic. I think the questions come down now to Jamal Murray, 7,900. Guy performs really great at home. Not to say he can't give you some monster numbers on the road as well. Aaron Gordon getting 32%. He's playing massive minutes as long as he's out of foul trouble. That's significant. I know Josh talked about how much he liked him earlier on the show today. And Bruce Brown, also very popular play. Round out the Nuggets for us. Help the audience out here. By the way, shout out to you guys. Thanks for getting us over 200 likes today. What do you want to do with the rest of the Nuggets not named Nikola Jokic?
So Murray looks really good at 7,900. He's pulling basically double the ownership of guys like Harden and Brown, which I think is interesting just because you get the same ceiling from those guys, but they are a bit more expensive. Murray should play a ton of minutes. This team does generally suck outside of Denver. It's not just Murray. So that is, something to keep in mind, I guess. But at that price tag still looks good. Again, I think he's going a little bit over-owned compared to Harden and Brown for a little bit more, but does look good. Aaron Gordon's only 6K, should play a bunch of minutes. Bruce Brown at 4,400 is kind of Denver's DeAnthony Melton in that he's only got about a 3.5% chance of exceeding what you want from his salary, but he's 38% to be optimal just because it's not really about him. It's about what you're able to get to by fitting him into your lineups at 4,400. I think Michael Porter's sort of interesting in tournaments at 5,800, just because you're getting 2/3 the ownership that Aaron Gordon's getting for $200 more. You're getting half the ownership of Jamal Murray. We know that Porter's a pretty volatile player, but when he heats up offensively, you can run the offense, not through him. Obviously, it's running through Jokic, but he can be, the guy that just pours in points for a while when he gets hot. There is some volatility there. So I get why the ownership is lower, but there is still a nice ceiling for him. KCP, last guy in that, sort of DeAnthony Melton range as well.
Okay. Top options outside of Jokic for the Denver Nuggets today.
Murray, Gordon, Brown.
All right. You got Live Before Lock coming up next, baby. Yeah. They're going to take you up till 7:30. Got the Sixers. What do you think the chances are the Sixers just lose 4 straight?
Hopefully 100%.
I know you got some money. You got some action on that one. I don't know, dude. It's going to be close. I don't think they get smoked today, but I think it's going to be a real tough game to win for sure. Joel Embiid, who knows what's going to go on with them? All I know is that you can follow Adam at Ship My Money DFS. Follow me at Loughran_D on Twitter, LOUGHY_D. I'm be sweating them in there. A lot of bets that we're sweating in chalkboard today, along with Greg Ehrenberg and the other 2,000 people. The other 2,000 people. No, I don't mean a sweep, Tom. They already lost the game. But yeah, we'll be sweating it in there in the chalkboard. It's free. The app is free. You can sync your sports books up. How about that, man? Sync all the books up, track your bets, share your bets. All the box scores are in there as well. All the picks are free. All the conversations always going to be free forever. Sandlot style forever. Never going to not be free. Get in there. And thank you, Brandon Wagner, for the free super chat. 25 months. My man. Good show, fellas. Thanks, guys. Thanks to Jordan Klein as well for producing this one. You may never see him again after this, but we appreciate him. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow. Peace. Yo, it's that time of week again. Stochastic Hall of Fame, where we dish out a bunch of free months of Stochastic Plus Platinum. Yes, $120 value right there, and induct you fine people into the Hall of Fame right here in between the Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock. We got some bangers, not just from Steve Buzzard, who unsurprisingly makes his way into the Hall of Fame again, but from a lot of subs and a lot of viewers. So it's a great day to be part of the Hall of Fame. We'll kick it off. Well, before we do, as a matter of fact, you want to get involved. Download the Stochastic profile pic at stochastic.com/avatar. This is how you're going to get a free month. This is how you get inducted. Got to follow these very simple rules. Tweet your wins at Stochastic HOF if you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more and win a free month. Get up here in the Hall of Fame. Let's make it happen. Just like DFS Dibbler or Amish Socks. Great feeling waking up to an extra 10K off a single entry. Thank you, Stochastic team. Finally in the Stochastic Hall of Fame. Feels good, huh, man? Amish Socks with a $10,000 win. 3rd place in the clutch shot. Not only in the Hall of Fame, but you get the free month, too. Come collect it, brother. And Chris, the last name pronunciation there is going to give me Chris Setas. Is it like pterodactyl where the P is silent? I don't know, but I know Chris took down $10,000 here. Just took down my first 5-figure win. Thank you, Stochastic, for helping me with my NBA lineups. Awesome, man. Congratulations. And Johnny Ray, thanks to all of you and your content on YouTube. $5,000. Third place in the Sunday MLB Squeak. That's a nice little weekend treat right there. Chase, Simple Man, at Stochastic HOF, $1,500. Taking first in the Mini Max. Dude, our guys have been crushing in these Mini Max contests for sure. Kenny Herron, shout out to Eric Lindquist, old E. Lindy, for the golf vid this week, and the Awesome-O Alec Baker for the expert analysis to play John Rahm this week. If you're not using Stochastic, you're doing it wrong. I would agree. Give me that free month. You got it, man. $1,000 first place in the Mini Max. $1,000 first place. These dudes just building the bankrolls up, crushing the Mini Max. Justin French, great night in the NBA for Team Stochastic. Here's my contribution. Split the Mini Max. Thanks, guys. There you go. $375. First place. Gotta love it. Massive ROI. And Steve Buzzard, unsurprisingly, makes his way back into the Hall of Fame. Our CFO here, Steve Buzzard. I'm often asked, what's your favorite daily sport, basketball or baseball? How about both? 100K to baseball, 50K to NBA on the same damn night. Leave some for the rest of us, Steve, and congratulations. Donkey, love the daily content, the boom bust tool, yes sir, and open DMs with the crew. Been trying to fine tune the process, the max 150 process with low stakes. Little late to post, but back from FanDuel, pinch hit on 4-3, $250 in the pinch hit, second place. Collect the free month, man. Congratulations. And Jeff, first MLB season, and I'm still learning. Nice W for the confidence in bankroll. Appreciate y'all. $150 for Jeff, followed up by Crash Money. Small win, but I'll take it all the same. Thanks to the crew for all the great content. Appreciate Steve Buzzard taking time out from winning all that to help me refine my process in office hours. Yeah, I think Thursday it is, Steve Buzzard in our premium Discord office hours, answering all of the questions you guys have. What better person to ask questions to than Steve Buzzard right now? Sean, it's beautiful to see great ROI in such a tough contest. A nickel into 75, I'll take it. Hell yeah, man. How about a free month of Platinum? Look at that. Platinum's worth more than you won. Now you can go on and use those tools everywhere else. Your team is the best around. Thanks, Sean. Congratulations, dude. Season. What, a quarter jukebox? All right, second and fifth place for Season in the quarter jukebox. And last but not least, R. Stanley, who affectionately refers to me as Laffy the Cheapskate because he finally now has the Stochastic avatar. Did not in the past. You rubbed me the wrong way, Rob, but we do things right around here. And because you got it, because you got second place and finally have the avatar, we can now issue you your free month. Congratulations to you. And to everybody else, remember, stochastic.com/avatar. Download that. Use it wherever it is you play. Tweet your wins at Stochastic HOF. Get inducted here in the Hall of Fame and get your free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. Congrats to everybody. We'll catch you back here for another.
Myself down. So we mix it up. Your workload seems very heavy, Jordan. I wanted to ease the burden. What is happening, everybody? Welcome to another Stochastic NBA Live Before Lock. And for today, I'm excited. I'm excited for a couple of reasons. Number one, the weekend starts tomorrow, but also we have a 2-game NBA slate. This is double the size of any of our recent slates. So instead of talking about 1 games, we have 2 games to talk about. We've got classic contests. We've got tiers back. I know we're going to be getting some super chats about tiers. I'm excited to break it all down. For today, we are sponsored by Underdog, and I know that Neil's very into Underdog and all their massive best ball contests, so we'll be talking more about them in a little bit, and the fact that just like yesterday, they have their no-brainers still out there. If you bet on Jaylen Brown in one of your parlay cards over on Underdog, you only need him to score 1 point. They have an over-under listed today for Jaylen Brown at 0.5 points, something to take advantage of. If you want to sign up at Underdog, use the link we have below that. It will get you up to $100 bonus on your first deposit. But without further ado, we have the world's #1 XFL fan. The flannel god himself has joined me on the show. Neil, what's happening?
Yeah, the first thing, Eric and I did a show earlier today together. What do you think the first observation he made was? Right away, he pointed out that my hat apparently clashes with my shirt, according to Eric.
Oh, I was going to say he immediately realized he wasn't wearing pants, but okay, different things.
I mean, he's used to that. He knows that I'm not wearing pants, but he noticed that the hat apparently doesn't match the shirt. I've never had you or Adam tell me if I'm clashing. Yeah. I guess I need Eric to give me my fashion advice.
For a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't pay close enough attention. Number two, I would have no clue. But it's not something I would ever know at all. And I assume I've seen you wear this attire more than once because the flannel, I forget. What do you own? Like 5 flannels that you rotate?
Yeah, something like that. 5 flannels, maybe 5 hats. So, you've seen all the combos probably.
Do you wash your flannels in between uses?
In between one use? No, come on.
Oh my God.
I've washed them when they smell.
Which is how many uses? Because smell, in your opinion, what is your wife's opinion on how many uses until it smells?
I smell the armpit before I put it on, like every day. Like I check the armpit. If it smells, I'll change it. I probably go, 6 or 7 uses in a flannel before I change it out.
So Neil is absolutely a dirty bastard. We have identified that, which, by the way, this is not nearly as bad as my parents just came back from vacation today. They were visiting. My sister was studying abroad in London for the last semester. So my parents went and visited her, and they went and hung out there for like the last month of her semester there. My dad it was actually about 3 weeks, if we're being exact. How many pairs of pants would you guess my dad brought with him for a 3-week vacation?
Brought with him? Yes. 2?
You have hit the nail on the head. My dad brought 2 pairs of pants with him. Not only did he bring 2 pairs of pants, the first thing he says to me when he gets back, and my mom and sister have been complaining about how bad he smells the entire time that he never changed his clothes. He also, he brought limited amounts of underwear with him. They would go to hotels and he was washing his underwear in the sink at hotels and just be like, oh no, this is okay. So he's been walking around in like mildewy underwear for the last couple of weeks. And to him, he's just like, yeah, this is acceptable. This is travel. But the first thing he says to me when I see him today and he comes back, he said, if I knew the weather was what it was going to be in London while we were there, I would have packed less clothes. But like, not amazing. Ironically, not as a joke, totally serious. Like, I brought way too many clothes with me. That was his takeaway.
I'm with him on the pants. You really only need one. If it's jeans, you just wear the same pair of jeans for 2-3 weeks, whatever it is. That's not a big deal. Underwear and socks are the one thing that they're one use for me. I don't reuse underwear or socks.
Yeah, my dad reused everything. He brought like a few shirts, 2 pairs of pants, and just basically wore the same thing every day. Like he's a cartoon character, because he kind of is. And he thought this was crazy that he brought as many clothes as he did. 2 pairs of pants for 3 weeks.
Less than 5 pairs of pants for a month is crazy.
So I change my clothes every day. I wear different clothes. Just my personal input. I know Jordan too. He shows up with his racist hats on occasion, and yesterday he was wearing a different, less offensive hat. Jordan, what for you is a reasonable amount of times to change your underwear and or pants?
Underwear every day, pants. If it's jeans, like a pair of jeans, it's probably like once every 2 or 3 days, maybe, if it's a pair of jeans. But
that's a little more reasonable. So I just wash my clothes every time after I use them. Like I find that to be, for myself, a good practice.
Even jeans, like it was. I heard Jordan start saying once every 2 or 3, and I thought for sure he was going to say weeks, and then he threw me off and he said days.
Yeah, no, Neil, you're a gross, grimy bastard. This is not acceptable behavior.
That much is clear.
We're adults around here. So I understand now. I've come to realize I don't even know that Neil likes having a beard. I just don't know that he likes bathing.
I actually love bathing. That's like what I love showering. I don't really take baths all that often. I really love bathing, but it's not because I want to get clean. Maybe that's part of it, but I just like the warm water. I take a shower before bed in the morning. Usually it's nice.
Yeah. So by the way, I wasn't even going to talk about this stuff with my dad, but then you brought up how infrequently you're changing with some of your stuff. That really just came up because of Eric's fashion advice. Right. There's clearly tiers to cleanliness. At least if we're ranking us on the shows, I'm number 1, Jordan's number 2. Neil, you're like 5th out of the 3 of us. This is just absolutely.
I'm better than Josh. I wash my hands.
Yeah, that's true. Josh shits and is like, why? Like, if Josh shits and he's offended at the idea that you would wash your hands after taking a dump.
Yeah. No.
So that's different. Yeah. That's different. Like, Josh is patient 0 for whatever the next big disease outbreak is in the country. Absolutely. You're just kind of dirty.
Right. Just a little bit classic dirty.
We've got some questions coming in via the super chat, and not surprised, this is the first question that we got, but it does come from Hannah Banana, and Hannah wants to know who my favorite options are at each tier for DK tier. So Hannah, thank you for the super chat. And tier 1, really easy for me. That is Nikola Jokic. You got Jokic, you got Tatum, you got Durant, and you got Embiid on 1.5 legs or so. Nikola Jokic in tier 1. That's the guy I like getting to. Tier 2, we have interesting options. It is Devin Booker, James Harden, Jamal Murray, Jaylen Brown. Tier 2, I lean with Devin Booker, particularly because of the absence of Chris Paul. We'll be talking more about that situation in a little bit. Tier 3, I'm going to be going with DeAndre Ayton, which also is influenced by the absence of Chris Paul. Chris Paul was in tier 3. I mean, he still is in tier 3, but projected for 0 fantasy points because he's not in. Tier 4 is such a toss-up. We have so many players that are projected similarly. Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon, Michael Porter Jr., Cameron Payne. I don't know exactly what Payne's role is going to be today, but I know there's a big ceiling there. I think there's a chance for Cam Payne to play a big role, a lot of minutes. So I'm going to ride with Cam Payne in tier 4. Tier 5, I'm going to go with Robert Williams. And then tier 6 for me is Josh Okogie. I also think there's an opportunity for him to maybe pick up some extra minutes due to the absence of Chris Paul. So thank you for the super chat, Hannah. We definitely do appreciate it. And I want to ask you, because he just came up when I was talking about tiers there, what is your expectation for Joel Embiid today? And how are you going to handle him in tournaments? It's a fairly tricky one, right? Because he played last game. He didn't look great physically. You know, he looked like he was moving slow. We saw him wincing at times. He was moving a little bit labored. How are you going to be approaching him for tournaments? There's clearly a massive range of outcomes with him.
Yeah, I'm going to be above weight to the field. We've got him at 8% projected ownership right now. That's too low for Joel Embiid on a 2-game slate where, like, you don't need him to pay off his salary. So he's 10,200. You know, on a main slate, you'd probably need 60 fantasy points out of him on like a 5+ game NBA slate to pay off that. You don't really need him to put up 60 fantasy points to pay off a $10,200 price tag on a 2-game slate, particularly if there is some chance of blowout in one of these games. Like, he could pay this off with, 42 fantasy points might be enough for Joel Embiid, depending on how the other centers on the slate do. The trouble with it, of course, is that we have Jokic also, who is only a little bit more expensive. He's 700 more expensive. But there are scenarios where Embiid outscores Jokic, maybe Jokic. I mean, it feels so hard to like see scenarios where Jokic fails. So that's the one like thing that makes me hesitate a little bit, is that it is difficult to picture Jokic completely failing. So it's kind of difficult to picture Embiid outscoring him. But certainly Embiid is going to outscore Jokic some amount of the time. We've got Jokic projected for, again, 47% ownership, Embiid just 8%. My guess is I'm going to end up above weight to the field on Embiid, below weight to the field on Jokic and Prey.
Yeah, I mean, prayer is not a bad option in these kind of scenarios. You know, you never know when that is the answer. And I don't really know a great way to approach Joel Embiid. I agree with you, by the way. I think he's so low owned in tournaments, it's reasonable to take an overweight approach. And one other thing that I'm going to mention with him also is I know that he is officially listed as questionable. I assume he plays, though, and I also assume that Joel Embiid is going to be listed as questionable for every single remaining playoff game the 76ers are in, just because he is dealing with an actual knee injury. And that's just kind of the nature of the way the injuries are supposed to be reported by the teams. When somebody's dealing with an actual injury, they're supposed to be on the injury report. And the reality is Joel Embiid is dealing with a 4 to 6 week injury that he's playing through. So he's listed as questionable. I can't say that he's 100% in, but I'm fairly confident that he is going to play here. Is that something you're weighing at all? Do you think there's a chance that he does not end up suiting up tonight and playing?
Yeah, I mean, if he does not end up suiting up and playing, we'll know that before lock, right? So it's not something that I am really factoring in, just because I know that we're going to have that information, so I'm not like worried about it. It'll obviously change the entire complexion of the slate if he ends up sitting. Then all of a sudden, Paul Reed is going to look pretty good at 4,700. Everybody else gets an uptick, so yeah, it'll change the entire slate. But like for now, I'm assuming that Embiid is going to play, so I'm building as though Embiid is in, and I'll just adjust everything on the fly if we get news that he's not.
And would you make any considerations for, even if Embiid is in, would you make any considerations in your lineups and maybe say, hey, in lineups without Joel Embiid, I want to get some more of guys like James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, just because there is a very realistic scenario here where Joel Embiid comes out and just looks a little flat like he did last game, isn't able to handle a full minutes workload, or maybe he's just so ineffective that Harden picks up more usage. So is that on your mind at all? And are you willing to get to more of guys like James Harden in lineups that don't have Embiid?
If I were hand building, absolutely, it's something that I would think about doing. Like, I'd make some lineups with Embiid, and then in some lineups I would think about, like, yeah, maybe I should build, like, what would happen if Embiid is out, and probably you're going to want Harden, or maybe you even play some Paul Reed, some of these other Tobias Harris, etc. Definitely something I would do if I were hand building. I don't know that I'm actually going to do anything in Fantasy Cruncher. I could like, give James Harden a boost and then give him a projection boost, then give him a negative boost when Joel Embiid is in the lineup, something like that, just so I don't get them together as often. But I don't think I'm going to. Are you doing anything?
I am not, because my expectation here is that Joel Embiid plays and just kind of looks like he did last game, where, by the way, he's tough as shit. I know he misses a lot of games, but the dude's playing on a fucked up knee and he's gutting it out and he's giving it like he blocked 3 shots in the first half of the last game. But I do think there's still some sort of physical limitations. And I think that what ultimately ends up happening here is that Joel Embiid plays, he looks less than 100%. So to me, I think that makes him a very risky option. But on the flip side, too, I think he's still going to be able to do enough on the court where it's going to take away from guys like James Harden, Tyrese Maxey. So I'm playing a little bit of guys like Harden and Maxey, but I'm underweight to the field to them right now. I think they're a little bit too popular considering that Joel Embiid is out there. And, we've got Harden project for 25% ownership, Maxey project for 24%. I do think those numbers are a little high considering that we do have Embiid, at least as of now, expected to play.
Yeah, that does seem. I'm underweight to the field on both as well, not by a ton actually. I'm above weight to the field on Tobias Harris right now, without having done anything to his projection. But I am a little bit underweight to the field on Harden and about half the field on Tyrese Maxey currently.
Yeah, so I'm going to be underweight to them as well, unless something changes. We find out that Embiid isn't in or something like that. Like that would obviously change how we have to approach the slate if that ends up happening in the next 45 minutes here, but at least as of now, that is not something that I'm expecting to happen. And we still have that Chris Paul injury to talk about as well. And that one, obviously, a little more cut and dry. There is no Chris Paul, which maybe we should just expect that every playoffs is that we go into every playoffs now. Maybe we just start with Joel Embiid questionable, Chris Paul out. We get rid of the first couple of games and the injuries that are going to happen. So we can just expedite things a little bit, but Chris Paul out for another handful of playoff games here. Brandon Wagner has left us a super chat here. Brandon wants to know, rank the 3K plus Damian Lee players on Phoenix. All right, so let's look at Phoenix. And
we got TJ Warren, Terrence Ross.
Which, by the way, the team did indicate that they are going to try to give TJ Warren and Terrence Ross some playing time today. Now, it's hard for me to think this is going to be anything significant enough for me to play them. So I don't really rate out any of these guys all that well on the cheap end from Phoenix. Like I don't really want to play TJ Warren or Terrence Ross, because even though they've indicated that they would like to, like, I don't think it's guaranteed these guys get any significant minutes. And I don't even think it's guaranteed that they play any minutes at all, even if the team has indicated they would like them to be in the rotation today. I think it'll depend on game flow. So, maybe I'm underselling them a little bit, but there's a good amount of value on this slate for a 2-gamer, and I'm kind of looking elsewhere. Are there any 3K guys that you really do like from Phoenix? They're super, super low owned.
So I guess because he said including D. Lee, he means anybody Damian Lee and lower. So like including Josh Okogie. So reading it that way, it would be Okogie number 1. We've got Okogie in for 22.5 minutes, 17 fantasy points at 3,600. So he looks the best. I'm getting to a ton of Okogie right away. After Okogie, it would probably be Damian Lee for me. Maybe when you factor in price tag, it wouldn't be. Maybe I'd consider Torrey Craig. That's tough after Okogie. I'd probably go Okogie number 1, followed by, I'll go Damian Lee, then Torrey Craig. Yeah, I don't like we don't have Terrence Ross and TJ Warren projected for a ton of minutes. We've got Terrence Ross in for about 10 minutes, TJ Warren in for about 8 minutes. So like we're not really expecting much from them. They're also getting 0 ownership. So if they did somehow run into more minutes, maybe in a blowout, like after the coach says we want to get these guys in the rotation, I'm guessing they'd be more likely to play in blowout run just to get them a little bit more minutes. So you can make an argument for 0% owned Terrence Ross or TJ Warren, but we don't have them projected for a ton of minutes. I'm guessing nobody else does either. It seems like they're unlikely to play like the type of minutes you need unless there is foul trouble, blowout, something like that. But in that case, I mean, at 0% ownership, I think that they're at least fine and in play. So it would probably be Okogie number 1 for me, Damian Lee number 2, Torrey Craig number 3, Bismack Biyombo number 4, and then followed by probably TJ Warren, Terrence Ross, Jock Landale.
I feel like I could be wrong. I think you might have said TJ Warren and Terrence Ross multiple times, but low priorities, right? Low priorities. There's nothing that I've really loved for cheap I think Josh Okogie is a really strong play today. He's going to be popular. I think it's warranted though. I like getting to Josh Okogie, and then the other cheap guys. So I would go Okogie, then Craig, then Biyombo, and then Terrence Ross, TJ Warren, then Jock Landale. But I don't have exposure to Terrence Ross or TJ Warren as of now. And like you said, I could see a path to upside, but it depends. If you guys are playing 1, 3, 10, 20 laps, I wouldn't be playing these guys at all. If you have 150 lineups and you want to play, 1 or 2 shares of these guys here and there, I wouldn't have a massive issue with it. I do think it's a problem if you're massively investing in Terrence Ross or TJ Warren.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Danny just said, damn, you guys talk about some shitty players. Good God. This is a 2-game slate. Like, that's kind of how you have to play DFS. You're going to have to play some shitty players on a 2-game slate.
We're also just answering a question we got. It's not like I opened up the show and was like, Neil, let's talk about Terrence Ross right now.
Right. Yeah. We're asked to rank players 4,000 and lower on the Suns.
Yeah, which the other thing too is I love getting these questions from you guys, because to me, it's kind of indicative of what a lot of people are thinking about on the slate and what you guys want to know the answers to. And so I do think it's a talking point that obviously this one guy doesn't care for, but I think there's other people who might care for, which is why we got asked the question there. We've got another super chat here from Nathan Feuty. And Nathan says, what is your points for 3,200 players, Boston versus Sixers? What is my points?
For 3,200 or lower?
So of the players who are 3,200 and lower, the only players I have projected for minutes in that game are George Niang and Jalen McDaniels. And as for points, I have both of them under 10 fantasy points. I assume he's asking.
Yep.
And I don't love playing Niang or Jalen McDaniels, especially because we have Joel Embiid back. If you look at Niang last game, Niang ended up playing 13 minutes. He's also terrible from a fantasy perspective. His production in the playoffs has been unreal how terrible it's been, because he actually is playing in some of these games and just doing nothing with the playing time. So, last game, and I get that a lot of it was garbage time, but 13 minutes, 3 fantasy points. Then, by the way, Joel Embiid confirmed him. Good to go. Going to be starting today. And
Nice.
The game before that, he was in the rotation against Boston. This was with Joel Embiid out. He played 13 minutes and scored 5 fantasy points. So I can't really advocate for George Niang or Jalen McDaniels. If I had to roster one, I guess I'll go with McDaniels because he's the better fantasy producer should he actually end up getting on the court and playing any kind of extended minutes. But once again, guys that I'm not rostering, George Niang, Jalen McDaniels, I know that other guy's going to be really thrilled about us talking about more shitty players, but McDaniels, Niang, either of them players you're getting to?
No, currently not getting to either of them.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. So Nathan, those guys are not for me. Once again, we have a good amount of value on this slate. Like there's good value as well. I like Campaign today. Briefly, we talked about Josh Okogie. Okogie's chalk. I like Josh Okogie as a chalk play. Campaign is my most rostered player on the entire slate right now. And he's somebody, we don't know exactly what his minutes are going to be just because he's been coming off the bench and playing limited minutes. He was dealing with the injury that held him out for a while. I assume Campaign starts. And if that's the case, him at $4,800, he's looking at extended minutes. He's looking at a bigger role. So I really like these. We have good pieces of chalk today. So I'm not really sweating too much about guys like, McDaniels or George Niang or anything like that. In terms of value options, who are the cheap guys that you actually do want to play that you like? Do you want to be overweight to a chalky Campaign? Do you want to be overweight to a Josh Okogie? What are you doing to save salary in your lineups?
Yep. So those would be Derek White, also 4,900. I'm getting to a ton of Derek White. So yeah, just looking at some of my most rostered players, I'm not going much to the very low end, but I do have a good amount of Derek White, Campaign, Josh Okogie, Bruce Brown. Marcus Smart is only 5,200, getting to some Robert Williams. So it's more like the mid-range for me, more so than the really value. I am getting to a lot of PJ Tucker that I'm probably going to try to get away from a little bit. He's 3,400, but as far as value goes, he looks okay here. I currently have 33%, so I'm going to get a little bit lower than that. But yeah, so I'm mostly living in the mid-range here. How about you?
Yeah, for me, it's I'm playing a chalky Campaign today. I'm playing the chalky Josh Okogie. We do also have a good amount of ownership going to Derek White. I think that's more or less warranted. Same on somebody like Bruce Brown. So there are these guys who are projected like 40% ownership that I actually end up getting like 60 to 70% of. And that is, that's some form of leverage. If somebody's projected to be 40% owned, like I just mentioned, Bruce Brown, and I have him in a little more than half my lineups, I'm positively leveraged there. I don't really have at the cheap end guys that I'm making any kind of crazy stand on. There's no, George Niang or Terrence Ross that I'm playing in any kind of meaningful amount.
Yeah, me neither. Trying to find somebody on the Suns that, like, with Campaign being a little bit banged up, like who would benefit if Campaign can't play a ton of minutes, and I just can't decide who I want to play there.
That's the other thing that's tough too, is like, all right, so let's say Terrence Ross plays more run than expected. He gets 12 minutes. I still don't expect him to do all that well in those minutes. Same would go for TJ Warren. And there's just, there are these guys who are just, marginally more expensive that project a lot better that I'd rather go to. That's at least how I'm approaching it. Now let's see if we have some more super chats here from you guys. Now somebody's going to ask us about like the worst player in the history of the world. Now it's going to be somebody's asking us about, I don't know, like Popeye Jones or something really stupid after we talked about all those terrible players. But all right, no more super chats here right now. I did see we got a message from Lee. So Lee's manning the projections today, and let's see what he has to say about it. And he said that when he was setting some of the minutes, he did what he felt was the most likely outcome. And a lot of it, he leaned on the props from sportsbooks just to see where they're at. He said that he is a little bit nervous about the Ross and Warren statement. He said that there also is a chance. And by the way, I do think this is a very likely scenario also that Lee mentioned underneath here. He said they could just have Booker run the point for the majority of the game. Very possible. There is a chance. And if this is the case, I'll have to alter my lineups. We could see Devin Booker start at point guard and play a massive amount of minutes. And that wouldn't be, they're down 2-0 in the series. We saw last series that they were playing Devin Booker and Kevin Durant like 44 minutes in games that were really high leverage. So there is a possibility that they end up going with Booker starting at point guard and kind of manipulating some of the other minutes. So something that I want to ask you, if Devin Booker is starting at point guard and Campaign comes off the bench, how would you approach Payne in that scenario?
I'd be getting away from Payne a good amount because the field, I think, will still be on him. I think the field will still end up with 30% plus of Campaign. So I don't think you're going to get any kind of massive leverage by still going to Campaign. So I think if he ends up coming off the bench, I'm going to at least get away from him some. Like currently I'm above the field. I think I would end up underweight to the field with Campaign. I also it would come down to like who would be starting then. Would it be Torrey Craig in the starting lineup instead, or Josh Okogie? Like I don't know who we would expect to start in that scenario, but my guess is I'd end up getting overweight on those guys, and probably then I'd end up getting more of like Durant, Booker, Jokic, and going less to the mid range a little bit, because then I'd be able to play a little bit more stars and scrubsy. How are you approaching it in that case?
Yeah, so a couple things first. I'm going to say my expected starting lineup. This is the starting lineup I think is most likely for the Phoenix Suns. I think they go Campaign, Devin Booker, Josh Okogie, Kevin Durant, DeAndre Ayton. With that said, there is a definite possibility they go with Devin Booker at point guard, and then they just go big with like Okogie and Torrey Craig, and then Kevin Durant and DeAndre Ayton. I think that is also a possibility. If that is the starting lineup, I think Campaign is probably going to be overowned and people aren't going to swap off him. I'll probably be getting off Campaign almost entirely if he's not in the starting lineup, if it's possible for my lineups at that point.
Yeah, I think that's a sharp move.
He would be overowned if he comes off the bench. He'd be overowned in that scenario. So we'll see what that starting lineup looks like. We're not going to find it out during this show. I assume we're probably not going to get that starting lineup for 1.5, 2 hours or so. Be on the lookout for it. If you guys are trying to have fun on a Friday night, maybe wait a second. Wait to get all your lineups in before you are, drunk out of your mind and trying to figure out how do I change my lineups now that Campaign is starting. Wait to start your Friday until we get that starting lineup for the Phoenix Suns. Now, let's see what we have in our Discord channel. If anybody has questions for us in Discord, at me, and we could answer those questions. It is one of the perks of being a Stochastic Plus Platinum member. And we've got some questions right here. First, Draft Keem wants to know who are the top 4 plays for DK single entry. So here's how I'm going to answer it. These are currently the players I have I have the most exposure to as of this second. It is Nikola Jokic, Campaign, Josh Okogie, Bruce Brown. Those are my 4 most rostered players as of the second. Like I said, if Campaign doesn't start, I would change that, but I am expecting Payne to be the starter. Neil, who would you consider to be the top 4 GPP plays for a guy DraftKings here who's building out his one single entry lineup?
Yeah, so currently I have the most of Campaign, Josh Okogie, Nikola Jokic, and Derek White.
Okay.
I mean, we are talking about GPP plays, so those are all fairly chalky plays. If we're talking about like anybody who's low owned, then it becomes, I guess that'd be a little bit of a different question. I have to think about that a little bit more. Let's see.
I have while you're looking, I have a leverage play that I like. Malcolm Brogdon is quite a bit less popular than Derek White, and I don't think they should be projected all that differently. Malcolm Brogdon is projected for 24.8% ownership. We got Derek White at 46.9%. So Derek White is nearly twice as popular as Malcolm Brogdon. I think an easy way to differentiate a lineup is playing Brogdon in it as opposed to Derek White. And not to say the 24.8% ownership is none, but relative to 2-game slate, that's somewhat contrarian.
Yeah, I like that call. I'm also noticing I'm kind of intrigued by Al Horford getting just projected for 20% ownership. He's down at 5,300. He's had some success against Embiid in the past, as I recall. Only played 24 minutes in the blowout last game, but in the series with Atlanta, he had a few games where he was getting he got up to 38 minutes in one game against Atlanta. Had a couple other games where he got to like close to mid 30s. So I'm sort of intrigued by Al Horford here. We haven't projected for 31 minutes, which I think is a fair projection, but at 20% ownership, I think you could do worse than Al Horford too.
Now I've got another question here. This one is from the Black Mamba 81, and he wants to know, what are the top plays position by position? So he didn't specify a site here. He just said general position by position. So we haven't really talked about FanDuel at all yet. So I think here's a good way to do it. Why don't you do it for DraftKings and I'll do it for FanDuel? And the question is just favorite plays position by position. So let's start with the point guard spot. And I mean, to me, the answer is going to be Campaign today, and with a bullet too. At least that, assuming that he's going to be starting right now. Campaign is, I think, the guy that we want to be looking at as our favorite overall point guard. Is that what you're going to answer as well for DraftKings?
Yeah, probably Campaign for me as well. I actually have just as much Marcus Smart right now, but I don't know if I'm going to end up there. So Campaign probably my highest exposed point guard.
Yep, Campaign definitely makes sense there. He also has shooting guard eligibility over on FanDuel. So instead of saying Campaign again, I will say Josh Okogie at shooting guard on FanDuel. Who's your favorite DraftKings shooting guard?
Yeah, I guess I'll go Campaign at point guard and Derek White at shooting guard.
Small forward, Josh Okogie, also a small forward eligibility, but I will say Kevin Durant at FanDuel small forward. Kevin Durant is sub 10K on FanDuel, and I expect a big game from Kevin Durant today. I think he plays a lot of minutes. Actually, I think he plays an absurd amount of minutes. Kevin Durant might not come off the court tonight. Kevin Durant played 44 minutes last game. He has now played 44 minutes in 3 out of the last 4 games.
Wow.
I think Durant plays a crazy amount. And then also, the other thing too is we have not seen the Suns in this precarious of a situation in the playoffs. They're down 2-0. This is a game where they're obviously going to be prioritizing winning quite a bit. There is no Chris Paul. Kevin Durant is going to play an absolute ton. So give me Kevin Durant as my small forward on FanDuel. How about yourself on DK?
Yeah, and Josh Okogie is my number 1 on DK by a good amount, followed by Bruce Brown.
Power forward. So power forward, Kevin Durant also has power forward eligibility, but Aaron Gordon for me at power forward.
Yep, Aaron Gordon for me as well.
And then if we're talking about the centers, so I'll throw a couple guys out here. One of them is going to be Al Horford. I get a decent amount of exposure to. A part of that on FanDuel is because he's a power forward and center eligibility. So that boosts up his overall just viability a little bit. So if we're just talking pure only center eligible players, it ends up being Nikola Jokic on FanDuel. Who do you get to the most at DK center?
Yeah, Nikola Jokic by far. I have 67% currently.
All right. And now one other question that we have in Discord. This is from the real AD, not the fake one. This is the actual Anthony Davis. 2v2, Harden and Maxey or Horford and Embiid? Which way would you go there? Harden and Maxey or Horford and Embiid?
Ooh, I mean, they're very different plays just because Horford and Embiid is super low owned. So if we're talking GPP, I feel like you could go Horford and Embiid and then just go like very chalky outside of them. So I'll go with the Horford and Embiid side.
It's I kind of the Harden Maxey combo is kind of interesting because there's a core, like typically these players are negatively correlated, right?
Right.
But the thing is about this, like, so typically they're negatively correlated. For today, though, if Embiid is limited in any way, Harden and Maxey would both benefit. But I'm also just the way I built I have to answer Horford and Embiid based on my lineups, right? Because I'm underweight to Harden and Maxey, so I can't tell anybody to go play Harden and Maxey as their 2v2 combo. So based on where my lineups are at, I'm going to say the Horford and Embiid combination. Next question here is from Einsteinium. He wants to know, would you play Jokic and Embiid together tonight? If you could fit it in, I don't have an issue with it. What's the opportunity cost? What do some of the other players in your lineup look like? If it means you're playing Terrence Ross and TJ Warren, then no. But if you're able to do it in a way where it fits fairly comfortably, then I think that's cool. I don't think I'm only playing 20 lineups today. I don't think I have any of them with them together.
I'm playing 24 lineups and I have 0 with them together, but I'm guessing it's going to be a very low owned combo, so I don't hate it at all. If you have a lineup that you're comfortable with at all, I don't mind it.
And then we got Clintwood83 wants to know who my favorite players are in tiers. Yeah, so I'll go back to tiers and read that off. And it's all good, Clintwood. Yeah, we talked about it earlier, but we could read it off again. No big deal. I'll do it for you. Nikola Jokic in tier 1. Tier 2, Devin Booker. Tier 3 was DeAndre Ayton. Tier 4, I went with Cam Payne. By the way, that is contingent on him starting. If not, that I would pivot off of him. And the guy I would go to, by the way, I should add this in. If Cam Payne is not starting, really easy to just swap him to Michael Porter Jr. in the same game. Tier 5, that is Robert Williams for me. And then tier 6, Josh Okogie. A couple more questions just came in here. Next question, Miami High Life, Tatum or Durant for a DK GPP? That is Durant for me because of the reasons I laid up for. 44 minutes in 3 of the last 4 games. He actually might not come off the court today.
That's so many minutes.
It is a lot. How about for you? Getting to more of Tatum or Durant?
Am I getting to...
Durant's also slightly lower owned, by the way. Not massively, but...
I'm getting to a little bit more, like I'm about even. I'm slightly more on Tatum right now. Yeah, we have Durant in for 44 minutes. Okay, so I don't really need to change anything there. Yeah, I have a good amount of both, but I have slightly more Tatum.
And then JEW says that should he keep Ross and Warren exposure for DK Showdown? Yeah, for DK Showdown, totally different format. They're better looking there than in the Classic contest. So go ahead and play those guys. Kind of like last night, Eric and I were talking about JaMychal Green, and neither of us expected JaMychal Green crushed last night.
Yeah.
But even yesterday, we were saying like this guy could end up scoring 8-10 fantasy points and be in an optimal lineup because of what his price point is. And that's how I feel about somebody like Terrence Ross, TJ Warren. Those guys could score, at a 1K price point for Showdown. Those guys could go out and end up scoring 6, 7, 8 fantasy points and be optimal. So it's certainly like the more for Showdown than for Classic contests. And then the Real AD says that he liked Brogdon at captain. What do you think? Contrarian option. The one thing I will say is don't include Derek White in that lineup if you have Brogdon at captain. I like it, though. Interesting way to build your lineup. Now, if you guys want to know how you get access to our Discord channel, just sign up, become a Stochastic Plus Platinum member. And we've got some good deals going on right now because in honor of Steve Buzzard seemingly winning all of the DFS contests every single day, we've created a new package in Steve's honor. It is the May bundle. And all you have to do to get access to this is you sign up clicking on the link below. And for $5, you can get access to all of our tools for every single DFS sport for 3 days. So good way to play MLB. You play in NBA playoff games, and we've got projections, ownership projections for Showdown as well. If you guys are grinding out the Showdown contest, so check out all the tools we have behind the paywall. This package May bundle, you are going to get 3 days of access for $5 to everything that we have over at Stochastic.com. And also, shout out to our guy Jorge, who's pretty regularly watching the shows. See him in Discord all the time. He tweeted at us, and his tweet was, again, scratching the top places in the 4-seamer on DK, thanks to the amazing tools at Stochastic.com. And thanks for today's info at ShipMyMoneyDFS and at PlayerQDFS. That is you, Neil. I don't know if you're aware of that, but that is you.
That is
some
me.
people might smell you before they see you, but they recognize you. Neil
That's
Orfield.
right.
And the shout out from Jorge. And yeah, Jorge, thank you for
Appreciate you,
messaging us. And If you guys want to get into the Stochastic Hall of Fame, all you have to do, make sure you have the Stochastic avatar as part of your screen name on DraftKings or FanDuel. And if you finish in one of the top places in a GPP, add us on Twitter at Stochastic HOF, and then you get yourself 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum, and we'll feature you on the show as well. So go check that out. Now let's get back to some of the super chats we have here. And coincidence, super chat from Jorge. Did he know we were talking about him? Who knows? Jorge saying, playing 20 lineups today. Thoughts on playing Durant and Booker, and also White and Brogdon on some lineups. So if you're only playing 20 lineups, but I don't have a massive issue with White and Brogdon together, but my preference would be to separate them. It's a 2-game slate. You could play them together. It's a little bit suboptimal, though. The other part of it was playing Durant and Booker. I don't have any issue with Durant and Booker together because there is a chance that both of them play a massive amount of minutes, and there's a big void for them to pick up with Chris Paul off the court. They're both going to have the ball in their hands more. So I don't have any issue with Durant and Booker together. I don't want to tell you to not play White and Brogdon together, but I did set a rule in Fantasy Cruncher where it did at least lower the projection of each of them when they're lined up together to try to eliminate some of the lineups they're together. But I'm going to have a couple lineups where they both are there because it's only a 2-game slate. But I don't have a massive issue with it. I wouldn't disallow it. Are you doing anything to change your lineups or limit the amount that some of these guys from the same team are popping up?
No, I thought about setting a limit on Brogdon, Smart, and White, like 2 out of 3 max or something like that, but I did not set any kind of rule like that.
And we've got, by the way, shout out to Malukar, who just gifted out some YouTube memberships there. So Malukar right there gifted 5 Stochastic YouTube memberships. So some people got those. Thank you for the support, Malukar. We do really appreciate it. And if anybody else wants to support the channel, really simple, just like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It does go a long way to helping us in the YouTube algorithm. Rajal Patel on FanDuel, is it okay to play Brogdon and White together? And good luck, everyone. It's a little bit suboptimal, but considering it's only a 2-game slate, it's okay if you have them in the same lineup. So Rajal, yeah, I'm not going to tell you you don't have to rearrange your entire lineup if the 2 of them are together. Just a little bit of negative correlation there. Do we have all these super chats answered now?
Bro says he likes my rule. So I think he's talking about my rule, at least the max 2 of 3 out of Smart, White, and Brogdon.
Yeah, I think that's a very reasonable way to approach it. Nathan Feudy wants to know how many points do I have Grant Williams for? Yeah, let's see. Grant Williams. I have Grant Williams for about 6.5 fantasy points. He is not somebody I'm rostering today. Do you have lineups with Grant Williams?
No, we've only got him in for like 6 minutes, and he's a bad fantasy producer. Thank you, Sotex.
What did Sotex say?
He sent a super chat that says, Neil, no worries. We can stand upwind from you. I appreciate you guys adjusting to my smell.
Oh, yeah. I mean, nothing worse, too. If you ever pee upwind, oh, boy, have I made that mistake drunk.
We've all been there. We've all been there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you don't learn by experience either. You'll do it the next day as well.
No, you're going to forget because usually you're probably drunk if you're peeing outside.
There we go. Sotex, Neil, no worries. We can stand upwind for you. Thank you for the super chat, Sotex. It is appreciated. Let's go and talk about Underdog a little bit. They are the sponsor of today's show. They've got these great best ball contests, which have you done a few more drafts since we last talked about it?
Oh, you know it. I just did an awesome one today where I got my full Viking stack. I got Kirk Cousins with Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison, and then I went overboard and I took KJ Osborne too because he slipped well past ADP. So I was like, I guess I'll do a full-on Viking stack, but I loved it. Yeah, I love best ball so much. Get super into it.
Where's Dalvin Cook going to be this year?
Probably not the Vikings. I don't know where he's going to end up, but my guess is that he's off the Vikings.
All right. So best ball drafts. You guys want to join Neil in the best ball streets? Go sign up at Underdog and use the link that we have below because it is going to get you up to a $100 bonus on your first deposit. Also, you want to be taking advantage of is this just absolute free square of a play. Jaylen Brown over under 0.5 points. I want to see if you're on the same page as me with this, Neil. I really like Jaylen Brown over 0.5 points. Do you like that one as well?
I think he's got a decent chance of hitting over 0.5 points. Yeah, I'll take that bet.
Okay, so we're going to start with that. Number one bet that we like here is we're going to go with over 0.5 for Jaylen Brown, over 0.5 points. So that's obviously the free square. But now let's also look at some of the data and the tools we have over at Stochastic.com. And we've got our Pick'em Pro package or if you guys want to sign up for it, another one, use the link below. We've got a discount code loaded in there. You could get access to this for less than $5. And we've got projections for, what the hell is this? I just get an update on my phone that Red Sox and Phillies in a delay because a fan fell out of the stands into the bullpen.
Oh shit. I had not read. I saw that it was delayed. I did not read the reason. That's horrible.
If the game's in Boston, though, isn't the fall into the Red Sox bullpen like 2 feet? Like that's a very low wall there.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah. Either way. All right. So you guys want to sign up for our Pick'em Pro package? We got projections for Prize Picks. We got projections for Underdog in there. You can get access to this for less than $5. I'm going to look at our Underdog
it's in
projections.
Philly. Sorry.
Oh, in Philly? All right.
Yeah.
I have no clue what the Philly bullpen looks like.
Yeah.
But it's Philly. Hopefully it wasn't Aton or Laffy.
Or Mike. Yeah.
Oh, actually, by the way, if sportsbooks were to put odds up of it, it probably is Mike. He
Absolutely
probably was wearing,
Mike.
Yeah, you know what happened? He was probably wearing a hat with a propeller and the wind started going really fast and he just started flying and then he just fell in the bowl. That's most likely what happened.
I could picture that.
Oh my God. Yeah, it probably
He
is.
did break his arm, like avoiding some
Yeah,
old ladies
true.
were walking by him and he like jumped out of their way. So yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Mike already did break his shoulder falling up the steps.
Yeah.
What if he broke his other arm falling in the bullpen? I'm gonna turn on TV and there's Mike holding his other shoulder.
Yeah.
Still falling into the garbage can though, most likely.
Yeah.
But yeah, good luck, Mike. I'm sorry it's happened to you again, twice in 1 month. Other props that look really good for us in Underdog. Grant Williams, who we just talked about, we're not expecting to play a lot of minutes. I like the under on his PRA. It's a low line of 6, but if Grant Williams is only going to play 4-6 minutes, something along those lines, I like the under on that. So that one makes sense. And then also, so we've got the Torrey Craig one projected decently well. I would avoid that for now just because we don't know what that starting lineup is going to look like. But let's go with Tyrese Maxey under 20.5 points. Pretty big line for him now that Joel Embiid is back. If you're looking at our projections, anything standing out to you for Underdog?
So there are a few that I liked. I placed a card earlier. Do we still have the over 5.5 rebounds for Jaylen Brown is one that I liked. Let me pull it back up. I actually did an Underdog show earlier today with Eric. So I know off the top of my head, I just need to pull them up real quick. Yeah, there were several that I liked earlier. Hang on one sec. I was just reading chat, responding to chat. But yes, I really like over 8 assists for Jokic. I feel like that was 7.5 earlier, so it has gone up a little, but I still like that one quite a bit.
By the way, I agree with you. I like Nikola Jokic over. I also did bet him earlier in the day for over 7.5 assists. I think 8 is still playable. We do have him projected for 10.
Right. Yeah, so some of the bets that I had earlier are no longer available, but you just did the under 6 PRA for Grant Williams. Is that right?
Yes.
Agree with you there. I like that one quite a bit. Yeah, I'd probably take the over on 1.5 assists for KCP. Yeah, all the ones that I bet earlier, the offerings have changed a little bit, so I don't have any strong opinions on most of the. I did take the over on 5 rebounds for MPJ. Also, I like that one. Yeah, some nice ones here.
I just texted Mike, by the way. He's okay. He's wearing his helmet. So no need to worry. Mike is, he's going to be okay. Good to see that. Let's do some roundup on the DFS slate now because, we've answered. Oh, actually, let me check to make sure there were no more questions that we got in Discord. I was going to round up some of the other players I got exposure to, but yeah, your guys' Discord questions, higher priority right now. We have a question here from Swaz. Swaz wants to know, how do you rank the top payups? Great question. I actually think that's a good way to go with the next part of our conversation anyway. Neil, what is the high-end players? Who are you getting the most exposure to?
All right, 1 second. I'm getting the most exposure to Jokic, projected for 47% ownership. I'm at 50, so I'm about even with the field on Jokic, but he is, of the high-end plays, the one that I'm getting the most exposure to. Not the one I'm the most over the field on, but yeah, my most exposed.
Jokic, 1 for me as well. 2 for me is Kevin Durant. And then 3 for me is Jason Tatum. 4 is Devin Booker. I wish I was getting to a little bit more of Booker, but I don't want to sacrifice the amount of like Jokic or Durant or Tatum I'm getting. So I have Booker 4th right now, but those are the 4 that I'm really playing. And just to read this again, Jokic 1, Kevin Durant 2, Jason Tatum 3, and then I have Devin Booker 4. So for yourself behind Nikola Jokic, who is the stud you're getting the second most of?
So I'm Jokic is number 1, and then I have Tatum number 2, and then a 3-way tie between Embiid, Durant, and Booker. I have 29% of each of them.
And here we've got a super chat from Burjal Patel. Burjal wants to know, oh, actually, this isn't a question. This is really just a comment / advice. Neil, do a full bear stack.
For best ball, I think that's not a bad idea necessarily. Get DJ Moore in there, maybe a Darnell Mooney, Claypool, Cole Kmet. Probably not going to do a full bear stack. I'll probably if I'm taking Justin Fields, I'm probably doing just like 2 pass catchers with him.
He was your enemy last year for a little bit, Justin Fields.
He was so tilting. Just like every week, he's like 50% owned. He's going to put up 50 fantasy points. It was just awful.
80-yard touchdown run all day, every day. James Magruder, best 4,600 or under player on DK. Let's see, 4,600 or under. Robert Williams. Yeah, Robert Williams. Anybody else do you prefer in that price point? It could be utility, any position, 4,600 or under.
4,600 or under.
Yep.
I'm getting to more Bruce Brown, but so is the field. I have Bruce Brown projected just slightly. So Robert Williams is my highest projected of that group. So that's probably the first place I'd go.
So one of the other reasons too that there's more ownership on Bruce Brown while you're getting to more. I mean, just he's incredibly good position flexibility. He's
right.
Point guard
so
and small
forward.
Util,
yeah.
Right. So you can play him at point guard, you can play him at small forward, you can play him at guard, forward, utility. So that's why he ends up being so much more popular. This is the utility spot, and you can play anybody. Time Lord, Robert Williams. That's the guy to go to. Next super chat, or was that the last one? Just Burjal. It wasn't really a question. That was just a comment, but it's him. Oh, Malcolm Revamp. Malcolm Revamp wants to know cash cores for DK and FanDuel. Yes, sir. All right. So I'll start with DK and then I'll move it over to FanDuel. So number 1, campaign, play him in cash games right now. And I do think it becomes a little bit of an interesting situation if he doesn't start for cash, just because there's still a path to upside for him. And he's going to be so popular that even though I'm going to be off campaign for tournament purposes, if he's not starting for cash games, I think I'd still play him there just so you're capturing at least what the field is going to be doing with him, because he still wouldn't project terribly and he's going to be really popular in those formats. So I'm going to say campaign, Josh Okogie, Nikola Jokic, and I mean, if you could fit Durant in there, I would like that as well, but that's probably a little bit too thin. So I'll add Bruce Brown into that mix as well for cash games. That is for DraftKings. FanDuel cash games, it's going to be a lot of the same cast of characters. Pulling up my lineups for there. And so one difference, Aaron Gordon, 5,800 at power forward on FanDuel is going to be super, super popular. I would play Aaron Gordon in FanDuel cash games. I play Derek White in FanDuel cash games at 4,900. I play campaign at 5,000. For a pay up option in FanDuel cash games, I will say Kevin Durant over Nikola Jokic. It's just so much easier to fit Durant into lineups on FanDuel where he's $9,900. If possible, I'll say play Durant and Jokic on FanDuel. I think it's a little bit easier than DraftKings, but Durant, my preferred pay up option for FanDuel purposes. And then Josh Okogie, another really good option there. So Malcolm Revamp, I hope that helps you build your cash lineups there for FanDuel and DK. Paul Akizi wants to know, out of the 7 stars over 8K, is Embiid the one to fade? Let's see. Players over 8K. So it's Brown, Harden, Booker, Tatum, Durant, Embiid, Jokic. I have the least amount of Jaylen Brown of those pay up options.
I have only 8% of both Jaylen Brown and James Harden. I mean, Embiid, like using just based on projection, Embiid is the one that you're likely to get the least of. I like him just because of the 8% ownership. So in a large field GPP, I don't want to fade him. Like I think that he's low owned, under owned in a large field GPP, but he is like based on projection, he's probably the one that you would not get to any of in like a 150 set if you don't adjust his projection at all.
Yeah, I would say also how many lineup, like if you're only playing, I wouldn't recommend playing Joel Embiid if you're playing one lineup. It seems to me though, because he's asking, which to fade of all the 8K guys, The one I get the least exposure to there is Jaylen Brown, then James Harden, and then Joel Embiid. And that's not even a knock on Embiid. It's just, Devin Booker, Jason Tatum, Kevin Durant, Nikola Jokic, just guys that I have more of than Joel Embiid. But I'm going to answer Jaylen Brown there. Not that I feel great about it, because it's hard to just outright fade any of these guys, but he's the one I get the least exposure to.
Yeah.
And let's see, were there more super chats here? No, it looks like we've gotten to all of those now. And yeah, read through the ones Jordan sent me. Got to all of those. I'll go back into Discord and see if we have any final questions to answer from the people in Discord, which we do. Swanson79, playing Time Lord in single entry at DK utility. Thoughts? I have no issues with that at all, other than this. If you have somebody else you could fit into the utility spot that starts later, like if you have Nikola Jokic in your lineup, play Jokic at utility and then play Time Lord at center, just because Time Lord starts early. That's the only thing I'll say, is that if you currently have Time Lord in the utility spot, if you have a center that's going to be starting at a later time spot, just flip that and put them in utility. The real AD, Maxey or Harris straight up? Let's see.
We have Maxey projected better.
Yeah, Maxey's the answer for me. A lot of it is, and by the way, it's very close. It's not like there's a big gap between them.
No.
But Tobias Harris gets hurt more by the return of Joel Embiid than Maxey does because of the rebound rate, right? We see a drop in rebounds for Tobias Harris from playing alongside Joel Embiid. Tyrese Maxey sees a drop in scoring, but he's not going to see some of the peripheral stats drop in quite the same way as Tobias Harris. So I prefer Maxey there. Now, it looks like we've got all of our questions answered now. Just got like a minute to go left until we get to lock, Neil. Do you have any final thoughts on this slate? Anything we haven't talked about that you want to bring up? If not, it's okay, but just want to make sure that there's nothing we left on the table.
I feel like we've talked about, all the interesting parts of the game. Of course, this isn't like Deeper Dive where we go game by game. So if there are players that we didn't mention, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're not playing them, just for the record, just because we don't go game by game. But yeah, I don't see anybody that's like in a ton of my lineups that we haven't talked about. I guess we did go position by position. So we probably talked about all the players that we're getting to a ton of. Yeah, I'm way above the weight to the field on Al Horford and Embiid. Pray for me, please.
Will do. Absolutely will do. And we are just about at lock now. So guys, thank you very much for watching. Hope you all have a great weekend, by the way. If you have not done yet, like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Shout out to Underdog who's sponsoring the show today. Don't forget, you got like 30 seconds left here if you haven't done it yet. Go on ahead and bet that over 0.5 points for Jaylen Brown over to Underdog. That's the best prop you're going to find anywhere. And if you haven't signed up at Underdog, use the link that we have below to sign up. That is going to get you a $100 bonus on your first deposit. Other than that, guys, once again, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great weekend. I'm going to be doing NBA shows tomorrow, so I don't ever take days off. But if you do, I understand. For the people who are sticking around, I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great weekend.